I am a terrible joke teller. I always feel anxious when I'm about to tell a joke, which is why I never do it, or at least rarely attempt to do so. I'm that person that starts laughing partway through the joke and can't actually finish it. And I'm laughing, and everybody's kind of looking at you, wondering what's so funny because you're not actually getting to the punchline, or completely mess up the punchline. I am terrible at it. And that is what I want to chat about today. No, not my joke telling skills or lack thereof, but about limiting beliefs. You know, those thoughts we have, those beliefs we have about ourselves that hold us back from life. And some of them can be pretty darn serious. So we've told ourselves these things for so long that they actually just hold us back. They limit our living. They keep us from reaching our highest potential or becoming the best version of ourselves. Those are limited beliefs. We're actually going to talk about what they are, how they can stunt our progress and limit our living. And most importantly, we're going to chat about how do you tackle these things? How do you move past them so that you aren't limited in your living? This channel is called Lead Your Living, and it is tough to take the lead in your own living if you have some beliefs that are actually holding you back from the very things you are capable of achieving. It's only been in the last several years that I've realized this whole joke telling thing for me is actually a limiting belief, which is bizarre when you think about it. I have spent 30 plus years in the health system as a leader in various levels and various capacities. And the majority of my work involved facilitating groups, talking in meetings, giving presentations, running workshops, doing education sessions. I am fairly comfortable in front of an audience. I'm fairly comfortable chatting with people, unless I'm trying to tell a joke. Okay, in case this is the first time tuning into my channel and we haven't met, well, first of all, thank you for tuning in. My name is Angela LeBlanc, and my channel is Lead Your Living. One of the things that you do need to know, especially related to this topic, is I am not an expert. I am not a clinician. I am simply someone with lots of life experiences and still learning as I go and sharing along the way, hoping that it may help others in their learning process as well. Life can be tough out there. We got to help one another. Every time I say that phrase about life can be tough out there, I think of a conversation that a girlfriend and I were having one evening, probably a couple of glasses of wine involved. Anyway, we're just talking about some challenges with life and how our families were doing, all that, you know, what girlfriends do when they get together and they chat. And I can remember as we were chatting through things, we just concluded, I don't know if it was because of a book she was reading at the time or a book I was reading at the time. Anyway, the great conclusion that we came to is that we're just a couple of clowns in the circus of life trying to figure it out. What you're hearing on my channel is not expert advice. You should not take it as medical advice or clinical advice at all. This is simply sharing some life lessons along the way. Okay, so before I get in and share a little bit of my joke telling thing, at this point in the video recording, I'm not actually sure if I'm going to tell the actual joke that started this whole thing for me. It is many, many, many years ago, but I'm not sure. If you're actually hearing me say this, chances are I'm going to tell the joke because otherwise I would just edit this whole part out. But I'm feeling anxious even thinking about telling the joke because I got in a little bit of trouble for it, and I'm hoping that if I tell it that it's not offensive in any way. I don't think it will be offensive, but it may be a little distasteful or in bad taste, shall we say. Anyway, so if there are any young little ears around, you may want to clear them out as I get to the joke telling part. That's not until later in the video, and I'll give you some warning in case there are any little ears around. Okay, back to the limiting beliefs, which is what this episode is about. A limiting belief is a state of mind or a belief about ourselves that restricts us in some way. Some are not a big deal. Others are a very big deal. They are sneaky. We may not even realize that we have them. We have been telling ourselves these things for so long that we've just believed them. They just become a part of our identity almost. We all have them, whether you realize it or not. Now, if you can't think of any, I've already told you, and I'm going to tell you the story that goes with it about my joke telling limiting belief, about me being a terrible joke teller. Think of one of your own as we go through this, because the purpose of it doing these videos is that it's meant to nudge people along and getting to the best version of themselves. And we can't do that without identifying some of our own limiting beliefs. So just to nudge you along and get you thinking about it, maybe you tell yourself, oh, I'm not a morning person. I'm a terrible morning person. Oh no, I'm not a runner. I could never run a 5K race. Oh, those kinds of things always happen to me. That's just how it goes. That's just my luck. It's how it goes. Or, oh, I'm terrible at math. I've never been good at math. Oh, I'm a terrible public speaker. I'm so bad at public speaking. They go on and on. I'm terrible at remembering people's names. I'm not smart enough to get that job. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. I'm not smart enough to whatever, fill in the blank. Oh, I could never start my own business. That'd be too much work. Oh, I could never go to that college. Oh, I could never take that course because I don't know anything about it. Oh, I'm so bad with technology. I can never figure technology out. Or just simply, oh, that's just not me. Or even, I'm a terrible joke teller. These are all considered or can all be considered limiting beliefs. They are things that we tell ourselves because of long histories. Either we're hearing it from other people or because of an experience that we've had, but they're not always based on truth. You may be looking at that list or hearing me say this list and you're thinking, yeah, I have some of those things, but they're true. I'm not making them up. I know. That's the tricky part. These things are so ingrained in our mind that they simply become part of our identity. We have made them so much a part of our identity that other people start to reinforce them for us. It's no fault of theirs. This is things we often bring on ourselves. In my case, other people around me who know me well, if they would hear me try to tell a joke or start a joke, it would not be uncommon for someone to say, "Uh oh, Angela's going to try and tell a joke. She'll mess it up. She always gets the punchline wrong, whatever." And so people reinforce them because I've said it over and over. Again, nobody's doing anything wrong here. Nobody's in this particular case, I don't think anyone's being mean spirited about it. It's just, it's become an assumed fact all these years. Now, the joke telling thing may not be a really serious limiting belief, but think about some of these other ones. And I have some of these other ones on this list that have and can hold us back. Public speaking is a big one for so many people, and they know that they're have either have had a bad experience with it or it just makes them nervous and anxious. And there are some legitimate things that go into that. But then we keep telling ourselves that, "Oh, I'm so bad at public speaking." And then other people know, "Oh, no, Sally is so terrible at public speaking. Don't let her give the speech. Don't let her give the toast to the bride. Don't let her give don't let her be the lead speaker in that presentation we have." Again, they become reinforced by other people and then the environment that we're within. We are not born with limiting beliefs. They are a result of either an experience that we've had, the environment we're in, the people we're surrounding ourselves with, things that happen in our community, whatever the case may be. But it's not something that we're born with for the most part. There's a whole other amazing body of research that's now happening on epigenetics and things that can be passed down through generations. Just beliefs and ideas and even behaviors. But that's a whole separate issue. For the most part, the limiting beliefs that we are chatting about today, they are a result of the environments we're in, the experiences we've had, and sometimes just one specific event that we've had. They can keep us stuck in a state of self doubt, which is never healthy. And again, this channel is about leading your own living, and part of that is getting past some of our limiting beliefs. Okay, back to my joke telling. As we've said, this is not a limiting belief that has had any serious impact or has held me back in any serious way. But I think it's still one that is worth sharing for a couple of reasons. One, it's true. I'm not making this up. This is a, a very real experience for me, and one I'm still actually working through that I'll tell you about in a few minutes. The other reason is I think it's a good one because I have a very specific experience that I can link this back to. And it's only been in the last several years, probably the last 10 years or so, that I really am realizing and recognizing this as a limiting belief instead of just a funny, quirky little part of my personality. And although it has not had serious impact, it has had some impact in some ways. So let's talk a little bit about our brain. We all know how important it is to every aspect of our living. It actually only weighs or takes up about 2% of our body weight. But did you know it takes 20% of our overall energy? That's a lot. And in some ways it's a huge surprise. In other ways, it's not a big surprise because think how it is constantly working when we're awake, when we're asleep, when we're stressed, when we're relaxed, when we're crying, when we're laughing. No matter what, the brain is functioning and it is taking care of business and it is burning a lot of energy. And one of the main functions it has, or one of the main functions that we're going to talk about today, it has is protection, about keeping us safe. It is always scanning the environment, looking for signals of danger, or looking for things that may be a threat to us in some ways. It is the amygdala, the little almond shaped part of our brain, that is the main workhorse in this danger detection function. It is, and this goes back to prehistoric times when our ancestors had to be scanning the environment all the time for safety. Think wild animals, lions, things that they may have come in contact with, actual physical threats in their immediate environment. That this is where this all evolves from. The amygdala springs into action, heightens our awareness, speeds up our breathing, tenses our muscles, get us positioned and ready to fight, flight, or freeze. That's that sympathetic nervous system doing all of this. And then when our brain detects the all clear, that the threat no longer is in the environment, is not a risk to us, the parasympathetic system kicks in. And that's the part where it brings a sense of calm and calms us down and gets us back to that rest and digest state. It really is a miraculous and amazing system. But there is one huge drawback to this miraculous and amazing brain of ours, and that is that it cannot tell the difference between real or perceived or imagined danger and threats. Think of the last time you watched a scary movie. You're watching a scary movie. You don't even realize it's happened. You're kind of aware of it, but your body's starting to tense. Your muscles are starting to tense. You're in a state of a heightened state of awareness. You're scanning your environment. You're very in tune to everything that's going on. And then suddenly there's movement over in the corner of your room, and you jump or you scream or you get up and flick a light on. And then you realize it's your childhood teddy bear that just flopped over. Mhm. That's what our brain does. So it flung you into action. It had all the senses. You were on alert. You were in heightened alert. You were ready to go. You were ready to respond. Our brains believe what we tell it. And this is how limiting beliefs get started. Okay, I'm going to tell my joke. So if there's any little ears, Viv, Claire, Gracie, if you happen to be watching this, you probably should stop now, take it to your parents and tell them that I told you to give them the phone or the iPad, whatever you're watching on. This isn't for you. So, how does all of this relate to limiting beliefs and, in particular, my joke telling limiting belief? Well, let me tell you my story. Had I been really thinking, I would have figured out some way to monitor my heart rate through this, because I'm feeling a little anxious even just telling the story. And anyway, see, this is me rambling, just avoiding getting to the details. Okay, so this goes back a long time. I don't even remember what grade I was in school. So I'm 57 years old. So I have not been in school in a very long time. And I actually think this was junior high school, maybe even elementary, but I think junior high school. Not 100% sure. I hope it wasn't. I hope it wasn't actually high school, because that's a little embarrassing that I was that naive. Some of you will not find that hard to believe. But anyway, I don't remember, and it doesn't matter what grade I was in. I was young and not a lot of life experiences. So we had a test, and I was never a straight A student. I was always somebody who had to work for my marks. See, I even feel myself getting fidgety telling this. I might cut this out. So, okay, I'm just going to pretend I'm going to cut this out, and I'm just going to tell the story as if it's not actually on YouTube, that I'm just telling the story to a friend, which I have no issue doing that. Okay, so I'm in school and we have a test, and I had a lot of test anxiety. I was always very nervous around tests, and I did okay, but I worked hard for every mark I got in school. And so at the bottom of the test, it said, "Tell me a joke for bonus points." So, as I said, I needed all the points I could get. I didn't really know a lot of jokes. I don't know if I knew any jokes. I knew one joke. I have no idea where I heard it or how I know. I don't remember any of that. Probably my naughty older brother or my more worldly BFF may have told me the joke. I have no idea. I'm just blaming them. That's probably not true. Um, okay, we didn't have the internet, so I didn't look it up on the internet. So my joke was, what do you get when you cross a canary and a mosquito? An itchy bird. I was picturing A canary scratching themselves, like a canary being itchy. My teacher was not picturing that. So again, remember, I'm not thinking anything's done wrong or whatever, and so I'm like, whatever. I'm handing my test in, and I don't have a lot of memory about all this. I just remember how I felt at the end of all of it. So I may be making up some of the facts to fill in the blanks, but I do remember the key parts of this story. I got my test back, and there was a note that this is an inappropriate joke. And just to make sure I received the message, just to solidify it, I did not get my bonus points for the test. I was mortified. I was a good student. And again, I worked hard for not only did I work hard for my marks, but I was a rule follower. I did not break the rules in school. And so this was very distressing to me. I don't remember who I told or how I figured it out. And again, I'll just blame my older brother that I probably told him about it. And I was also scared. I was scared that I was gonna get in trouble, like, that they said inappropriate, whether that was the word that was written on the test, that's how I remember it. That's the message that I remember getting, that it was not appropriate to include that joke, and so I was also scared that I was gonna get in trouble, and so I probably didn't even tell my parents. "Mom, if you're watching this, I know you've heard this story since then, but, I probably didn't tell you at the time." And so once someone, and I have no idea who, as I said, probably my older, wiser brother, explained the joke to me, I was mortified. I was embarrassed. I can't even, I probably can't even articulate all the emotions I felt, but it was a pretty significant experience for me. Here's me, the good student, the rule follower, the person who always studies, and told basically a dirty joke on a test and got what I would consider in trouble for it. Phew, I don't know if the rest of you are, feeling the stress of that story, but I am, and I mean, I've told the story many times, but it's still, now that I'm telling it and linking it to how it's kind of impacted some of my, habits and beliefs over the years, it feels a little bit different. So, all that to say, linking this back to limiting beliefs, sometimes limiting beliefs come from a very specific experience. But we may not even have the wisdom to know that at the time. It's just something has happened. We know how it made us feel, whether it was me telling myself that, whether I shared the story and other people reinforced that for me. Again, all in the spirit of keeping me safe. My brain starts to channel that information. Avoid joke telling, danger, danger if Angela's about to tell a joke, warn her, keep her safe. Again, my brain thinks it's doing the right thing because this is the message I have reinforced over and over for many, many years now. That's how it works. It's all subconscious, obviously. It's not, we're not literally thinking that back and forth. It all happened. Remember, this, our brain is a very sophisticated organ. It has some very high tech functionality to it. I'm providing this in a bit of an animated format, or an exaggerated format, just to, I don't know, to make it relatable. And again, I hope you are thinking about maybe a limiting belief that you've identified for yourself. Think about one. Mine started with a specific experience about a bad or an embarrassing experience telling a joke. Then, once we have an experience like this, as we said, our brain continuously scans the environment for confirmation that this is true. And so, if I ever told a joke after that that maybe fell flat, then our brain says, "Yep, yep, that confirms. Yep, stay away from the joke telling." And so, it's constantly looking for things to confirm that that belief is true. The brain may be looking for confirmation of this in other ways. Like, I heard other people tell jokes that was a groaner and nobody laughed, whatever. And again, that gets cemented in my mind as, yeah, see, joke telling can be very dangerous. Avoid joke telling. Again, all subconsciously. But I'm telling you, we need to pay attention to these things. These can make huge differences in how we live. A joke telling thing is not a limiting belief that has had serious impact in my life. But think about some of the limiting beliefs as, I'm a terrible public speaker. I'm not a morning person. I could never get that job. I'm not smart enough to go to college. I'm terrible with numbers. I can't do finances. And again, a really important reminder. So you may be thinking things like, "Oh, I'm not a morning person, whatever," and that's true. And I don't mind not being a morning person. So is that a limiting belief? Well, probably not. If it's not holding you back and it's not something that you want to change or that you thought about changing or you wish you could change, then it's not perhaps a limiting belief. But if it is a belief that holds you back from things and holds you back from reaching your greatest potential or the greatest version of yourself, then that's when it may be considered a limiting belief. And don't dismiss this too quickly. Sometimes we got to do a lot of digging to realize what things are limiting beliefs and what things are not limiting beliefs, but sometimes it takes a lot of digging to get to it. And it's worth the digging, it's worth the effort because it can make a huge difference. Once we realize that something may be a limiting belief, we can retrain our brains for a different response. And there, my friends, in lies the magic. So I've been working on my joke telling thing for the last little bit. Now, again, I keep saying this has not been a huge life limiting belief of mine, but it is a real one, and I am realizing it has had some impacts. And even though it's not huge and had serious impact, this has been a fascinating journey for me. Let's chat about how to get past them. So this belief of mine of being a terrible joke teller has not been a secret. Yeah, it has not been a secret at all. And it's true. I usually do mess up the punchline or start to laugh before I get to the punchline, probably out of nervousness. So that part is true. Because I have convinced myself it's true, our thoughts matter. I always mess up jokes because I believe I will always mess up the joke. You see, again, put substitute your own limiting belief in here, whatever it might be, and give this some thought because you know what, you can change it. Which is again, that's where the magic lies. Once you identify a limiting belief, literature talks about reframing them. Again, our thoughts matter. What we tell ourselves makes a huge difference. This may sound really woo woo and out there, but it is true. There's tons of research around this, and just it's one thing to hear it and know it, it's another thing to put it into action. So I'm hoping that you will like take something from this. So once you identify your limiting belief, in my case, I'm a terrible joke teller, then you start to work on reframing it. Give some thought to where it originated from and what may have prompted and what have gotten you to there. That's all part of it. But then start to reframe that belief. I know it sounds silly, but I have gone through this and it has been fascinating. So because our brains cannot tell the difference between what is real and what is not real, and they just believe what we tell it, reframing helps to change our thoughts and helps to change the message that we continuously send to our brain. Now, this can feel a little weird when you start it. I really stumbled with my reframing. I sometimes want to go all in. And so was trying to tell myself, okay, I'm not going to tell myself, oh, I'm really bad at telling jokes anymore. I'm going to tell myself, oh my God, I'm a fabulous joke teller. Well, that is definitely reframing it, but that felt so artificial and fake and not real to me that I would have trouble even saying that to myself at this point. But again, if you can do that and switch it, then maybe that's for you. But for me, switching it to the exact opposite was not the reframe that would work for me. I played around with it a lot because I really wanted to give this a genuine effort. I wasn't actually thinking about doing this as an episode on this channel, but I was doing it to kind of get over the joke telling thing. And so I played around with the reframing a lot. Oh, I'm a fabulous joke teller. Oh my gosh, I'm really good at jokes. Oh, I can't wait to tell jokes. Oh, maybe I'll be a stand up comedian. No, none of those were real. None of those felt right to me. After much work and much reframing, what I landed on that felt good to me was I can't wait to keep practicing my joke telling skills. Now, truth be told, it also felt a little artificial because I wasn't really enthusiastic about practicing joke telling skills until I did a little bit more work on this. And I read an article that gave some prompts, some questions to prompt your thinking around this and to kind of help you with the reframe and to dive a little bit deeper with it. And I'll put a link to that down below. But one of the questions was, let me just reference it here, is to ask yourself the question, so even if this is true, my case, that you're a terrible joke teller, what does it mean to you or what does it mean about you? And at first I thought, well, that's a stupid question. It means that I'm a terrible joke teller. But then you got to go a little deeper. And really what I came up with after some thought is that it just brings up feelings of embarrassment yeah, feeling embarrassed. I was embarrassed that I put that. I was embarrassed that I didn't understand the joke. I was embarrassed that I got in trouble. I was scared that I was going to get in trouble. All of those things. And so it was more about not the actual event that happened, not the joke telling and not the teacher's note. It's about kind of what happened internally with me, how it made me actually feel or how I responded to it. That's the part that was limiting. That's the part my brain is trying to get me to avoid. And so just even realizing that was very eye opening for me. And so when you look at reframing the belief and then, first of all, identifying the belief, then asking yourself some questions about it. But well, so what if it's true? What does it actually mean? And then go deeper and keep asking that. You can ask that several times. And so if you ask yourself, well, so what? What does that mean? And maybe if you're working on something, I don't know, different, that if you're saying, oh, I'm a terrible public speaker. Well, so what? What does that mean? What's that holding me back from? Well, it's holding me back from advancing in my job. It's holding me back from conducting good meetings, whatever it might be. And then ask yourself, well, what does it mean to you, or what does it mean about you? It means that I'm not comfortable with it. It means that it's going to that I feel embarrassed and I feel nervous, and everybody can see that I feel nervous. And then you keep asking yourself, well, why, and what does that matter? And then you get yourself to a clear understanding about what really matters about it, which again starts to set you up for starting to change it. And so for me, it was the reframe. Where I landed on the reframe is that I can't wait to start telling jokes, or I can't wait to practice my new joke telling skills. And once I realized that it didn't even matter if I was good at it, that it's just about dealing with how it made me feel, that's the key. And so then I started to look for opportunities and cues to practice. Obviously, start out small and look for safe environments. I should be apologizing to my husband. He's heard me tell lots of jokes. But if you've watched any of my YouTubes, not any of my YouTubes, but in the last 2 or 3 YouTube episodes, I've been trying to squeeze a little joke in. I mean, they went with the episode, but that was also me practicing my joke telling skills. In both of them, in the 2 videos, they didn't go well, but it didn't matter. And it actually has become a fun thing for me to do. It doesn't even matter when it falls flat. It just has changed my entire perspective on it. And so I'm going to continue to practice. Look for opportunities to practice. Start small. If it's public speaking that may be your thing, read up on public speaking, about keys to help you with public speaking, things to remember with public speaking, and then start small. Like take a trusted friend and say, okay, let me do a 30-second speech to you. And that is hard to do. And if someone is struggling with it, it is harder to speak to people that you know and trust and work with than it is to speak to a bunch of strangers for the most part. So find a safe way to practice. There are lots of things in your community that you can tap into. So look for little cues and opportunities to practice whatever your new reframed thought is, and be committed to it, because it only takes little, as they say, 1% improvements every day. You don't have to go out big and strong. Start very small. And if you go back and look at some of my YouTube episodes, that you will see my joke telling. And I'm just going to show a little clip here that a couple, maybe 2 videos ago, maybe 3 videos ago. I can't remember. Anyway, my opening line was I started it with a joke. It took me probably 5 takes to get it right. It was a silly, stupid little joke. It wasn't even really a joke. It was like a little, I don't know, I guess a joke, but one I made up. So it was just to try and add humor. And again, for me to practice my joke telling in an environment that I thought was safe, and it didn't matter what the outcome was. And so this is me trying to get that right. A couple of my takes. Okay, so I have a joke for you. What do you get when you put, oh, see, this is why I'm so bad at telling jokes. Okay, take 2. What do you get when you put, what do you get when you put a baby boomer, 2 Gen Xers? This is why I'm so bad. I just start to laugh before the joke even starts. I will never have a stand up comedy act. Okay, here we go. Take 3 or 4, whatever we are. And in that same video, I told a story about me telling a little joke that also fell flat, but it didn't matter. Again, it was a safe practicing area. I told a little joke to 2 little people who I love dearly, so it was pretty safe grounds for it falling flat, and it fell totally flat. But it didn't matter. I mean, this for me now, the whole joke telling thing has, it's just change. And again, I know this is not a big deal, but it's just such a great reminder how we can change those beliefs and change how it makes us feel. And a couple of times I really, even though I felt the anxiety, even making this video when I was telling the story, I could feel myself. But what I'm also saying in my head, I know, and this is really mature of me, is that sometimes you just got to say, brain, you are not the boss of me. I know you're trying to protect me, but you know what? I got this. And so it may sound a little far fetched, but do what you got to do to convince yourself and to move past these things. Start where you're comfortable, start where you're at. When this kind of started last year for me, when I was really starting to think about the whole limiting belief, I was doing a little bit of substitute teaching for a year. And I was in one class, and this is in my early days. Well, they were all early days because I only did it for a year. But I was working with one little guy who every time the teacher gave him something, and I was actually the teacher assistant in the classroom, his first response was always, "I can't do this. You need to help me. I can't do this." And it'd almost be like a temper tantrum. And that got a little old quickly for me. And so anyway, I chatted with them, and this little, these are little people. And so I just said to him, I said, "You know what? I will help you." I said, "But I don't want to hear you say, I can't do this. I want you to say, I know I can figure it out, but I might need you to help me with it." He said that twice. And instead of it being a whining, cranky, very frustrated voice, the second and third time he said it is, "I know I can figure this out. I just might need some help." Started to change the tone of his voice he was starting to, I think, believe that about himself. Now again, that's just a very small example, but it sometimes does not have to be much, and sometimes we just need to nudge people in the right direction. This video has been really about identifying our own limiting beliefs and moving past them. But remember, most of these limiting beliefs come from the environment that we live in, go to school in, work in, the people we surround ourselves with. So be aware of that, of how you can influence someone else's beliefs about themselves. This is a great channel if you're looking for more information. I am not an expert. She is an expert. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She has some great videos on there on limiting beliefs and a whole slew of other topics as well. Worth checking out. So remember, limiting beliefs, take them seriously, work on them. They are no joke. Oh, and just before we wrap up, this is my obviously, I would love for you to like or subscribe to my channel or leave a comment, but in particular, because I'm on this little mission now of trying to tell jokes, I don't have many. And so I am looking. So if you have a nice, clean little joke that's good for all audiences, please leave it in the comments below. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking I should back up. I do not want anything inappropriate, anything that has any kind of racial content like that will not be tolerated, will be deleted. So please don't do that. But any kind of little joke that you might have that I could use, I would love for you to add that in the comments. Thank you.